Hello, South Yorkshire Schools community. I'm Crystal Chiselle from Project Drawdown.
And I'm Kat Taylor, also from Project Drawdown.
And we're very excited to talk to you today about climate solutions and ways to take action. So let's talk for a few minutes about the cause of climate change. Climate change is caused by what's called the greenhouse effect. Now, normally some of the heat coming to Earth from the sun is reflected back into outer space. But some of the heat from the sun reaches Earth's surface and remains trapped in the Earth's atmosphere. And this is called the greenhouse effect because it causes temperatures on Earth to rise the way that temperatures inside a greenhouse are warmer than the outside air. Greenhouse gases are substances in the atmosphere surrounding Earth. It's like air. And these greenhouse gases trap the heat from the sun and prevent it from being reflected back into outer space. There are 4 greenhouse gases that we will discuss today because they play a key role in climate change. And the climate solutions we will discuss today play a role in reducing the amount of these gases in Earth's atmosphere.
Thank you, Crystal. Let's dive in and learn about that first key greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is emitted when we burn fossil fuels. And we do this a decent amount. It's released when we burn airplane fuel, jet fuel to travel around the world, when we use gasoline-powered cars, and as we generate power using coal or natural gas. Nitrous oxide is another key greenhouse gas. It's emitted from wastewater plants. It really depends on how that sewage is managed, and sometimes nitrous oxide is released. It's also released from certain industrial processes that are used to make the products we use in our everyday lives. Methane is another potent greenhouse gas. It is emitted from cow farts. If you want to be fancy, that's called enteric methane emissions. It's also emitted from manure from livestock, especially cow and pig manure. It's also released from our waste. And so when we throw away organic things, you can think about apple cores, old food, paper, and it goes to the landfill, it might break down without much oxygen. And when it breaks down without a lot of oxygen, then methane is released into the atmosphere. The last key greenhouse gases we're going to talk about today are refrigerant gases. These are your hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs, and your chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. These are chemicals that are used to keep things cool. Think about your refrigerator or your air conditioner. When you use your air conditioner, or when your air conditioner or refrigerator is disposed of improperly, these gases escape into the atmosphere and contribute to the greenhouse gas effect, and thus global warming. I'm going to pass it over to Crystal now to talk more about the levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere over time.
Levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are higher than ever, and most of the increase has happened in the last 100 years.
We want to pause for a moment to recognize that learning about the greenhouse gas effect, climate change, and the effects they have on our lives and the lives of people around the world can feel scary. And it can feel overwhelming. It's a very large challenge that we face. And those feelings are normal. I know I have them. It's also important to recognize that while climate change is a threat, it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to look at what we're doing today, rethink what we value, and develop innovative ways that lead to a sustainable future for all. I'm going to pass it over to Crystal to talk about where greenhouse gases come from. How did they get into our atmosphere, and how did they get out of the atmosphere once they're there?
Thanks, Kat. So where are these increasing levels of greenhouse gases coming from? This gray box represents the Earth's atmosphere. These bands on the left side of the slide represent the things that humans do that send greenhouse gases up into the atmosphere. The greenhouse gases produced from human activity are called emissions. About 25% of emissions come from humans making electricity. That's the orange band on this diagram. An equal amount, about 24%, comes from the way we grow food and use the land. About 21% comes from factories, about 14% from transportation, and about 6% from our buildings. Almost all activities of modern human life produce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, some of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is removed by nature through what are called sinks. About 24% of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is removed by plants through photosynthesis. And that carbon dioxide is stored in plants, trees, and soil. And then another 17% is absorbed by oceans through chemical reactions and photosynthesis by algae and phytoplankton, the tiny plants that live in oceans. Now, more than half of the greenhouse gases that we humans emit are left behind in the atmosphere and create that thick blanket over the planet. Knowing where the gases come from and where they go helps us identify the climate solutions we can use to address climate change. Climate solutions are technologies and practices that reduce the emissions going up to the atmosphere, what you see on the left side of this graph, and those that support natural climate sinks that are represented on the right side.
Thank you, Crystal. Before we get into talking about all of these exciting climate solutions, we want to introduce you to just a small handful of the people who are working to implement climate solutions. There are delegates having conversations on behalf of nations, trying to figure out how nations can work together to implement solutions. If you want an example of this, you can think about the Conference of Parties 26, COP26, that happened in Scotland last year. There are students, people just like you, who are learning about climate solutions and developing creative ways to implement them in their local area. There are people who are physically implementing solutions to climate change for their job, like this gentleman in the lower left who's installing solar panels. And as more and more people engage with climate solutions, they begin to think about how we can implement solutions as part of business plans, as part of local government plans, and in many other diverse ways. Crystal and I work for Project Drawdown, a nonprofit organization working to help the world reach drawdown. Drawdown refers to the future point in time when levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere peak and start to steadily decline. You can see it here as this blue dot. This is a critical turning point for life on Earth, and it's one we must reach as safely, quickly, and equitably as possible. So, how do we get there? Project Drawdown has identified over 90 different solutions that can help us reach drawdown. Each of the little bubbles on this diagram represents a solution that can decrease the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, either by reducing the greenhouse gases that we emit or by supporting the land and ocean sinks, those bands on the right that Crystal just talked about. We're excited to share some of these solutions with you all today, and I'm going to pass it over to Crystal to start us off with some electricity solutions.
Thanks, Kat. So some of the climate solutions that reduce emissions of greenhouse gases going up into the atmosphere are ways of generating electricity, such as solar panels and underground steam. The electricity grid is the system that all buildings in a community connect to for electricity supply. In order to use solar and wind energy, we also have to make improvements to the electricity grid.
Buildings offer another amazing opportunity to enhance efficiency. There are many different building solutions that are already in use around the world, and now it's a matter of helping more buildings use and implement them. High performance glass, like you can see on the left, is designed to act like insulation, keeping heat inside a building during cold weather and keeping heat outside a building during warm weather. This means that you use less energy for your heating or your air conditioning. Green roofs are roofs that have plants growing on them. They also act like insulation and they have additional co benefits. This insulation helps save people money, increases their comfort, and reduces stormwater runoff in cities. There are also additional building solutions to improve efficiency. Building automation systems make buildings more energy efficient by sensing the building's temperature and lighting as they change over time, and then automatically adjusting the heater, the air conditioner, and the lights to make sure the building is always comfortable at the times when people are using it. It's literally set to make the inside of the building as comfortable as possible, and so anyone in the building doesn't really have to think about it anymore. LED lighting is another fantastic solution. LED light bulbs use 90% less energy than traditional light bulbs. Not only do they use less energy, but they actually last longer. If you run an LED light for 5 hours a day, think kind of after you go home after school, eat dinner, do your homework, and go to bed, just those 5 hours, it can last for 27 years, saving you a lot of money in the long run.
Sequestration is the word we use for when carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere and held in plants and soil. Many climate solutions assist with sequestration. Regenerative agriculture, where crops are grown in ways that build healthy soil without chemicals, helps with sequestration of carbon dioxide. And another solution, another example is a solution called silvopasture. It's the grazing of livestock, such as cows, sheep, and goats, by integrating trees into the pastures where they graze. Pastures with trees sequester 5 to 10 times more carbon than pastures with no trees. Now, two climate solutions involving food are powerful. One is eating a diet that includes more plant-based foods with less meat. Most crops on Earth are grown to feed the animals that humans eat. And the more animals we need to raise for food, the greater the need to cut down forests. If humans can reduce the number of animals we raise for food, we can preserve the forests that serve as sinks for carbon. The other powerful solution involving food is reducing the amount of food we waste. Less food rotting in landfills means less methane produced, and less wasted food means less land and resources needed to produce food, and less waste means more people can be fed using fewer resources.
Let's talk about some more solutions that help with sequestration. Protecting and restoring ecosystems is a key way of supporting land and ocean sinks. Ecosystems are the natural environment and all living things in a specific area. Protecting ecosystems can involve protecting forests, protecting grasslands, and protecting peatlands. In fact, there are some important grasslands and peatlands near you in the Peak District National Park. Protecting grasslands, peatlands, and forests allows them to continue removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it in the rich soil and plants that grow in these ecosystems. Peatlands, which are also called bogs, are especially important because they can keep removing and storing greenhouse gases for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. That's far longer than any other type of ecosystem. Restoring ecosystems is also really important. There are many forests, grasslands, and coastal wetlands that have been disturbed, degraded, or destroyed by human activity. However, careful work replanting native species and ensuring they have everything they need to thrive helps to restore these ecosystems. As ecosystems are restored, they capture greenhouse gases, provide habitats for wildlife, help keep the water and the air clean, and in the case of coastal wetlands, like the ones pictured here, can help protect cities and towns from storm surges, making them more resilient to extreme weather.
Composting and recycling are two ways we can use waste as climate solutions. When food rots in a landfill, it releases methane, but composting food waste allows it to rot in a way that will not release methane. The compost can then be used for farming. Mining metal from the earth, driving it to factories, and processing it in factories produces greenhouse gases. But recycling reduces the amount of greenhouse gases produced from making new products. The chemicals used in refrigerators and air conditioners, we've already mentioned, are greenhouse gases that are thousands of times stronger than carbon dioxide. So switching to different chemicals for refrigeration and air conditioning and using more efficient appliances, more efficient refrigerators and air conditioners and freezers is a top climate solution.
There are also many innovative solutions in the transportation sector, and many of them involve shifting to alternative forms of transportation. And some of these involve modifying our cities to help people actually move around in ways that emit less carbon. We can make cities more accessible and walkable by making sure public intersections have safe crosswalks, ensuring many commodities like grocery stores or where people work are within walking distance, and providing well-lit pathways for pedestrians at night so you can travel safely using your own 2 feet, whatever the hour. We can also add in more bicycle infrastructure like bike lanes, safe places for people to park their bikes, and more direct bike routes in cities so people can rely on this form of transportation even more. Both of these improve human health by encouraging exercise and reducing air pollution, much like the solutions we're going to discuss right now. We can also electrify our transportation vehicles, the cars, buses, trains, and bikes we use to get around. And this will further help us reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. As we install more and more renewable energy infrastructure, like the solar energy and the geothermal energy that Crystal described earlier, we'll be able to power our vehicles using this energy. This is going to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases emitted and improve air quality. There are also ways we can enhance the efficiency of our transportation system. One way, which we're all using right now, is telepresence. We can use the internet and digital technology to meet with people around the world without having to use greenhouse gases to travel all the way to get together. In some ways, increased use of telepresence has been a silver lining of the pandemic, helping many parts of society realize how easy and feasible telepresence can truly be. We can also increase efficiency of how goods are moved around the world. Some of my favorite examples are how we can enhance the efficiency of ocean shipping by making many modifications to the ships themselves and the shipping processes. We can design longer, larger, lighter vessels so they can carry more cargo, and so the weight of moving the ship itself requires less fuel. You can add special features to the ships. Some of them have a special device that coats the bottom of the ship with bubbles to help it move through the water more smoothly. Others have a special coating that's designed to be like the scales of shark skin. This coating makes it harder for barnacles or other marine life forms to attach to the underside of the ship where they would create drag and slow its progress. Ships can also use other solutions that we've already discussed to enhance their efficiency. They can use solar panels to provide electricity, automate their functions like we saw with building automation systems. They can move more slowly to reduce fuel consumption and plan the best route through extreme weather. All of these innovations can make shipping more efficient and reduce the amount of greenhouse gases needed to move goods around the world.
Climate solutions do more than just reduce greenhouse gases. They can improve life for people around the world by improving health, saving money, and increasing equal opportunity. Quality education for girls and boys around the world is important for addressing climate change. Education and access to healthcare allow people to make choices that benefit their lives, so they have better economic opportunities and recover from the difficulties caused by climate change.
Everyone can contribute to helping climate solutions be adopted around the world. For example, you can make changes at home with your family. You can think about switching to LED lighting, trying composting, learning how to make plant rich dishes, reducing food waste, and many other possibilities. Perhaps your school would like to start a composting program, adopt renewable energy systems, or support you in learning more about climate solutions. You can take action and contribute within your community and with your local government to help create policies that make it easier for your city to transition to renewable energy. Start a citywide recycling or composting program, or use alternate forms of transportation like increased bike lanes, safer pedestrian walkways, and electric vehicle fleets. You and your friends can influence arts and culture to help make climate solutions part of what is cool and part of the vision for the future we want and that we can achieve. The bottom line is that by all working together and sharing ideas, we can work together to create change in our own local area and to help move these solutions forward.
So we have given examples of only some of the climate solutions that already exist. There is so much more to learn. Once you learn more about climate solutions, you can think about how to help them be used more widely in your home and your community. The good news is that none of us has to work on climate solutions alone. We can work on this together.
And in the spirit of working on this together, we want to invite you to explore these questions throughout the other sessions you attend during the conference this week, and perhaps with your friends and peers this year. Which climate solutions are you curious about? Which ones are igniting your passion for learning? Ones that maybe you'd like to see if you can implement somewhere near you? And how do you want to work with other people to help your community adopt climate solutions? Remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can always join in and contribute to existing efforts in your community.
So thank you so much for spending this time with us today to learn about climate solutions. We invite you to learn more at drawdown.org, where you can find information about more than 90 climate solutions.